these are the variables and experiment notes. And so let's say we have a question. Now what? You can run a controlled experiment. Before running an experiment, you have to identify the variables. Variables are one of the definitions for your vocabulary list, and these are factors that can change. So anything that there's variety. So variables, variety, it's kind of like the same thing like a variable of ice cream is the flavor. There's all these different flavors of ice cream. That's a variable. Variable of hair could be hair color. There's red, there's brown, there's blonde, there's black, different colors of hair. And so a variable is just a factor of something that has variety, I guess is a better way to say it than that can change. So we have variables in an experiment, and before we jump to that, there's different groups in your experiment. The experimental group is the one. It might be, you might just have one experimental group, you might have several, but the experimental group is the ones that have the independent variable. And the control group does not receive treatment or have that variable. And this will make sense in a little bit. Okay, so what are the different types of variables? One type of variable is the independent variable, and that is the one, there's only one in your experiment, the one thing you change, that you're able to change on purpose in an experiment, right? So if you are doing an experiment like on our example the other day with OxyClean or baking soda and vinegar to get out a stain, the thing that you're changing, so one stain is going to get the OxyClean and the other one is getting the baking soda and vinegar. And so the one thing you're changing on purpose is the stuff you're using to clean the stain. So that would be the independent variable in that experiment. Okay, the dependent variable would be the results or the effect from the independent variable. And then constant variables, there's many different constant variables. Those are all the things you keep constant. Okay, so that baking soda and vinegar or OxyClean, or maybe use different materials, right? Maybe you try peroxide or whatever it is that you're using to clean the stain. That would be the independent variable, the thing that you're using to clean the stain. Now there's many different varieties of that thing, but that's the thing that you're changing. The independent or the dependent variable would be how the stain comes out, right? So you do your experiment, at the end you look, you compare the stains to each other, that's your dependent variable. And then the constant variables are all the things you keep constant or the same, so they don't affect the experiment. So if you had 4 white t-shirts and you put ketchup on all of them, right? The stain, the material that's the stain, that would be a constant. That you have all t-shirts, that they're all white, those are all constant variables. If you soak one stain with nothing, you soak one stain with baking soda and vinegar, you soak one stain with OxyClean, and then you soak one stain with maybe peroxide or something. And then after that, you put them all in the washer, you use the same detergent, that's a constant, and you see the results, that would be your dependent variable. Okay, so here's another example. Here the question is, how does the amount of water affect plant growth? So a hypothesis could be, if the plant receives 10 milliliters of water each day, then it will grow taller than each day. Okay, so the independent variable is the amount of water. How much water the plant is getting. That is the thing that you are changing in your different groups. The dependent variable would be the height of the plant at the end. Constants, there's many, so maybe it's the type of plant. Right? You need to make sure you're using the same type of plant or your experiment might not work. You need to have the same amount of sunlight, the same temperature, same kind of dirt. Right? So all of these things that you are keeping the same, those are your constant variables. Because let's say that you had two different types of plants and one grew a lot more, it might have nothing to do with the amount of water, but the fact that you have different plants. And so you have to keep some things constant. Some things, some people call them controlled, but they're constants. And then, real quick, independent variables are sometimes called manipulated variables, because that's the thing that you're manipulating or changing. But either way, it's independent of anything else. You are changing it. It's manipulated. The dependent variable is sometimes called the responding variable. So it's what happens in response to the manipulated. So you're manipulating something, and then the response is whatever the results are. So those are the variables and experiment notes. If you guys have any questions, let me know. And I'll talk to you later.